Doing great. Fire away.
How do you evaluate or what is your evaluation of the kick return game so far for this team?
For the Saints. I think we've been a little bit of a mixed bag, You can see a lot of teams are game planning against us in terms of where they're kicking the ball, trying to keep the ball away from Sheed. He's obviously had a couple good returns, quality returns. And so, I think everyone's trying to still navigate and kind of through the scheme and all that. It's still very, very brand new to everybody. And so what you've seen throughout the league is that the kickoff team has a little bit more of an advantage right now than probably everybody initially anticipated. You look at the numbers of, where the ball's going to after returns, and that's, below the 28-yard line. I think it's like the 27.5-yard line versus returns. Now, if you include all the touchbacks and everything else, the number gets elevated a little bit. So I think everybody's kind of still navigating through the scheme. I think initially when this whole thing started, I think everyone thought that it was going to be advantage kickoff return team with the new rules. It's not playing out like that. I didn't quite think that. A lot of other people thought that. And so there's a lot of challenges. That front line technique is very, very difficult. It was a difficult technique when you had to run back, but at least you had some space on your side. Now with guys right on top of you, and so the thing that's really interesting to watch is week to week, kind of the other teams and some new schemes and guys coming up with some great ideas. But when we've had our chances, there's been some. We made a poor decision last week at the goal line, kind of hesitated. There's been some. We missed a block here or there, so it's never one thing, right? So it's still a work in progress. And so, but listen, I think the good news is when we've had the ball in our hands, we've gotten pretty good yards. We haven't had a huge play yet, but I think we've had some productive plays there.
Are you a little surprised at the number of teams who have just opted just to kick it in the end zone and give the ball to 30?
No, I think it's a fair question. I know when the NFL made the touchback rule from the 35 to the 30, there was a number of teams that were just going to see how the thing played out. And they weren't going to do a deep dive, and they weren't going to really, put the time and effort into it. I just, we kind of knew that. I think that one little minor change probably, I think I said this before, probably knocked 40% off the return rate. Now, we're still at a pretty good spot. We're double where we were last year. We're north of 30% return rate. Last year was 15%, league-wide. We're getting more plays in the game. The play seems, and I don't have, again, no data yet, play seems to be a heck of a lot more safer. However, I'm not surprised that there's that, whatever that number of teams is. I saw a stat yesterday. I think there's only 5 teams that have put the ball in play more than touchbacks. We're one of the 5. I think us, the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Panthers, and the Commanders are the 5 teams that have put the ball in play more than touchbacks. But if you look at those 5 teams, they also, right now, through 5 games, also lead or top near the leaderboard on opponent start drive. So, again, I think every head coach, every special teams coach, every analytics, all that, but the numbers are starting to trend. Again, it's 5-week sample, but the numbers are starting to trend towards. The numbers would tell you to put the ball in play right now rather than kick a touchback. So, but I can't really sit here and tell you I'm surprised because, listen, a lot of this league has become analytic-driven in the last, 5-6 years particularly. And so analytics would tell you, based on the old rule, go ahead and kick a touchback. And so I think that a lot of people just kind of went with their old thought process. And so, we've had a different thought process here, but so be it.
Can you talk about the decision to move Jamal next to Shaheed? Because it seems like when you put Shaheed back there, it's almost like a guarantee they're going to kick to the other guys. I'm just curious what went into that.
What went into actually Jamal himself or I'm not.
I mean, is it you could pick a number of people, so why is Jamal in that spot?
Yeah, well, obviously we've had Taysom back there. With Shaheed when he was healthy, he was back there at first. We've had a number of guys working through. It's really a week-to-week decision. Shaheed's going to be back there. That you can guarantee. Who the other guy is, a lot of times has to do with what scheme we're running, the game plan. If you've noticed, those guys have lined up in different positions. A lot of times is where the kicker kicking the ball, all those things. So what you have to keep in mind also is that the guy that doesn't get the ball has to block. And so, you have to also keep that in mind as part of the scheme. So that person has to be a dual type of player. But we have a number of other guys that have been working it. You might see some other guys in these games coming up here. But Jamal Jamal's had a couple productive plays. He had a poor one last week, but he's had some productive returns also. So.
What did you make of the center point? Was there something wrong with that?
No, he just pulled it. Yeah, there wasn't really nothing earth-shattering from a technical standpoint. He got a little too pivot foot, a little too close to the ball, and so he pulled it. Kind of a little bit of an anomaly there. Nothing major. He obviously did a really good job with those last year.
Was there any lingering problems from the injury to his family?
No, I don't think so. He actually had a really good warm-up. I don't know how many of you guys watched the warm-up, but he actually had a really good. I was really, really pleased with his pregame and thought he was in a really good spot. And actually, I think he hit like a 61 or 62 yarder in pregame. He was banging the ball just to miss it. That's all. I think it's just a coincidence.
How have you seen Matt's performance?
Listen, I think Matt's doing what we've asked him to do. You know, the first 2 games of the year, he stood around the sideline for 3 hours, and then he punted, in the fourth quarter. So it's a little bit hard to evaluate the first 2 games. But these last few games, what we've asked him to do game plan-wise, listen, Kansas City's always had a really good return game. If you gave me the numbers going into the game, I probably would have signed up for him. We try to do a good job there with the punt direction and things like that. The previous weeks, he's also done a really good job with he's had a lot of punts inside the 20 from a percentage standpoint. He's kind of limited return yards, and so I think for a rookie, he's through 5 games, he's kind of what we expect so far. So, but it's again a small sample size. Like I said, those first couple of weeks are a little bit of a. So really, just last 3 games, I've been really happy with where he is, and he's got a really good approach, really good maturity about him for a rookie, and so kind of happy where he is right now.
Darren, what's the challenge this week, the Bucs?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the Bucs, special teams, they had a really good kick return game last week against the Falcons. Falcons decided to put a bunch of balls in play, and they had a return out past midfield. They had a couple really productive returns, and so their return game is going to be challenging. They've really gone with a kind of a committee at returner. Like 5 different guys have been back there. Some bigger, their running backs have been back there. You mentioned Jamal. They've kind of gone with that same approach, kind of some bigger, Bucky Irving and Tucker. There's some bigger physical type runners. So that's number one. Number two, they've really done a really nice job. They blocked a field goal against the Falcons. They're a rush team. Thomas McGahee, their coach, has been around the league for a while now. You guys probably know him when he used to be at LSU back with Landry and Beckham and those guys. He was the coordinator back then, and he's really done a nice job. And I've gone against him when I was at the team prior to this, and we were in the same division, so back in the division again. So, I really respect him as a coach. He's always done a really solid job. They're a little bit of a bigger core group than we've seen. They have kind of some bigger bodies, some linebackers, some defensive ends on their core units, and so that's going to be a little bit of a different approach for us this week in terms of personnel. So, but they've really done a nice job. I said to our guys, when you look at that Eagles game, they played that game on the Eagles' end of the field from a field position standpoint. The Eagles got a punt, fumbled the punt, and really they controlled the field position. So I think it's going to be really important for us in this phase. I think winning this field position battle. I think when you look at this game when it's over, that field position battle is going to be a major part of this game, and so it's going to be important for us to control that aspect of the game. So that's going to be a challenge. They're always well coached. Todd always does a great job, with their entire team, and so. That's a big challenge ahead for us. The thing we have to do special teams-wise, as I said to our guys, we got to play a clean game. We can't come out with a holding penalty on a punt return. Can't make a mistake by the goal line. Can't miss an extra point. We got to play a clean game. I really believe we got to just play our game and make our corrections, and I think that'll really help the cause for sure. Appreciate you guys. You got it.